Max did a video on Mythic raiding, and interesting thoughts.
Indeed.
A big thing that I do agree with him here.
Of course.
Both on the problem and why we can't do the solution that would seem like the good one. But he was saying the integrity and how good Mythic raiding is right now would be harmed by going back to 10-man in this game. Even though if I were to make a new game today, if I were consulting developers making a new game, I would recommend their raid size is no bigger than 10. But for WoW, it's simply been out for too long because there are so many classes and specs, and because there are so many combat types and amounts of adds and types of damage you can do, and because there are a million specs that all do things differently, you can't reduce the size because it's going to exclude so many classes from the game. You got to remember, this is the Mythic community talking about Mythic.
Yeah.
Now, whenever I first was raiding, it was 10-mans in, technically it was like Karazhan and TBC and like 1 or 2 Doomed Knights. But realistically, it was raiding 10. It was doing so in Wrath of the Lich King. I raided 10-man all through Myths of Pandaria. Of course, the fun experience of doing 10-man in Throne of Thunder, where initially it was basically overtuned for 10-man versus the larger size. But I do agree. I think that the smaller player count it's more intimate. Even your voice comms are more clear.
Yeah.
There's more just solid readability for the combat. I think a lot of people do enjoy FF being, 8 players for a bunch of its content. But if you just do that in WoW for Mythic, we're like, okay, there's only 10 slots. These are the 10 best. We're going to hyper optimize, so get fucked.
Yeah, we've got 36 specs.
Yeah.
Have fun.
So I think that's fair enough, really. It is what it is. For recommendations, though, he's got enabling cross-realm on day 1, because right now you've got to wait for Alliance and Horde's Hall of Fames to fill, and I think because there's a lot fewer Alliance Mythic raiders going on, it's helped up.
If you've got a population problem, solve the population problem.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
So I think for this, though, yeah, just enable cross-realm day 1. Just let people raid with their friends. Cross-faction. There's so many Horde raiders who would love to go Alliance for numerous different reasons, but they're only able, they have to raid with their friends in Horde. Removing this barrier would greatly lessen the faction imbalance and still keep a form of separation between the factions. So, you're still a Horde player, but you can play with the Alliance people. Yeah, fair enough. I think this is something the WoW team themselves are toying with.
Almost certainly.
And then a whole bunch of the technicals and Mythic lockouts.
Yeah.
Which I don't think we should dive super into.
No, I mean, a lot of the point is mostly that the way it works is too punitive on players, and it doesn't work with how players are a lot more free to play a lot more now. And they have the organization to hop into different Mythic groups and stuff like that, but the lockouts punish them.
Lockouts are very different to how they, in other aspects of the game, they're very different to how they used to be back in like Wrath and Kata.
Yeah, no, so I think giving people a lot more freedom across Mythic is, even though it could end up having some degenerate stuff happen in the high-end thing, I think the problem is the high-end is, obviously, the same happens in esports a lot of the time, and I feel like it's hard for people to understand this. The high-end doesn't just materialize out of nowhere. It is from the base community and people who climb to the top of it, get up there. So, people are even saying, 20 people is too much to get rating, because it's just, there's not that many people hyper interested in this pure slog that is Mythic rating.
Yeah.
So the more you can alleviate that, and even that'll be lockout, because the thing of lockout is, because all of these are basically pointed towards solving population problems, because obviously cross-realm, cross-faction, self-explanatory, but the lockout means, if you need to grab, 5-year members or OA, they've quit, maybe they're off sick or something out there. Off sick like it's work, they're away having socially engaged fun and stuff like that. Then you can get 5 people from another group. You could hit up your friends guild and go, oh hey, I know you guys don't raid on a Thursday, but you're doing Mythic Plus. Do you want to help us in with this kill? That would work. So that would just solve the population problem. That's basically the point of it.
Yeah. These are good stuff we wanted to call out. Sort of, good ideas floating around. Also, Jet pointed out something I think is good. And basically, why are we penalizing people for not timing a key? You're already penalized because your key didn't go higher, but you wanted it to.
Yeah.
So why knock it down one? Because, it's like, oh, okay, great. Now my key is depleted. Okay, now I need to run the key again to get it back to where I was. And then hopefully I'll then get to... Yeah, it doesn't feel great.
Yep. No, I think it's...
Good point. Basically, make game less punitive.
Yeah.
Probably a good idea.
Mythic rating overall is really... well, not Mythic, so I haven't done it in a long time, but...
Your last Mythic was...
It was... I attempted to raid early Mythic in BFA and then didn't bother. But it was mostly Antorus.
Yeah.
And some Emerald Nimmer. But it was like just 20 people, so many people. It's so many people. It's far too, like, especially because you have a lot of people you have to organize very specifically for a specific time. I mean, obviously this does vary, especially like these days, but I mean, it's hard enough getting like 4 or 5 people for Mythic Plus a lot of the time, just because with people who are older and have different schedules, unless you're really taking it super hardcore. It's the kind of thing where I think they can reduce barriers to Mythic rating in almost every way without having to reduce the barrier in terms of how the game's difficult. Where it's a case of, if you could get into the game, if you get into Mythic rating player power wise a lot easier, and you didn't have as much stuff to actually have to do to stay at that bar, then obviously hurting the preparation side of it does hurt the high end stuff and does hurt some of the feel of it, because you don't just want it to be just a raw gameplay challenge. But if you can reduce every barrier that's not affecting core gameplay, then I think that'll just be healthier overall for the scene, and that's the way they should generally move, I think.
Totally.